Rome, 897 AD. The trial was over. Pope Formosus's lifeless corpse had been dragged through the streets, stripped of its sacred robes, and tossed into the Tiber like garbage. But the spectacle of the Cadaver Synod would not end with the humiliation of the dead. It would spiral into terror, vengeance, and bloodshed for the living. For Pope Stephen VI, the orchestrator of this macabre theater, the curse had already begun. The fall of Stephen VI. At first, Stephen believed he had triumphed by condemning Formosus. He had sent a chilling message to Rome. He was the supreme authority, and even death could not shield his enemies. But the people of Rome saw something else. They whispered that the trial had defiled the church itself, that Stephen had crossed a boundary no man should cross. He had turned the holy papal throne into a stage of madness, mocking not only his predecessor, but also God. Superstition spread like wildfire. Some swore that at night they saw the ghost of Formosus wandering along the banks of the Tiber, dripping with water and decay, his hollow eyes fixed on the Lateran palace. Others claimed that Rome itself smelled of rot after the corpse was dragged through the streets, a sign of divine wrath. The senators of Rome, the clergy, and the ordinary people all turned against Stephen. Within months of the Cadaver Synod, riots erupted. The once powerful pope was seized, thrown into prison, and according to chroniclers strangled to death by his own guards. The man who put a corpse on trial now became a corpse himself, disgraced, abandoned, and cursed, the vengeful people of Rome. The Roman mob had not forgotten the sight of the rotting Pope Formosus dressed in papal robes, forced to confess crimes through the voice of a deacon. To them, it was not just an outrage, it was blasphemy. When Stephen VI died, the people cheered. Chroniclers wrote that his corpse was denied dignity, tossed aside as Rome tried to purge itself of his madness. But the curse of the synod lingered. Rome itself became unstable, plagued by violent uprisings, factional wars, and endless papal assassinations. The throne of St. Peter became a death sentence for many who dared to claim it. The undoing of the synod, the next pope sought desperately to erase Stephen's crime. Theodore II, who ruled for just 20 days, immediately annulled the Cadaver Synod, declared all its rulings void, and had Formosus's body fished out of the Tiber. The corpse, bloated, waterlogged, and half decomposed, was reburied in St. Peter's Basilica, restored to a place of dignity. The people hailed this as an act of divine justice, but the turmoil was far from over. Formosus's ghost continued to haunt Rome, not literally, but politically. Every new pope was forced to declare whether they supported Formosus or Stephen. The church itself was split, factions accusing each other of heresy, illegitimacy, and corruption. The Cadaver Synod had not just desecrated one pope, it had poisoned the very authority of the papacy. The curse on the papacy. Over the next decades, the papal throne became a revolving door of terror. Many popes reigned only weeks or months before being murdered, deposed, or mysteriously dying. Chroniclers believed this was the vengeance of Formosus, a curse born out of his grotesque trial. Even centuries later, the Cadaver Synod was remembered with horror. Historians called it Synodus Horrenda, the dreadful synod, a dark stain that no amount of papal decrees could wash away. The spectacle of a corpse on trial became a symbol of the corruption and madness of the medieval church. It showed how politics had devoured faith, how power had twisted the sacred into the grotesque. And for Rome, it left a legacy of fear, that the papacy was not divine, but vulnerable, fragile, and doomed to repeat its sins. Conclusion: a stage of death. The Cadaver Synod ended not in justice, but in damnation. Stephen VI was strangled, Formosus's body reburied, but the scars it left on Rome never healed. In the end, the Synod revealed a truth darker than any verdict. In the battle for power, even death could not grant peace. The throne of Peter was no longer a beacon of holiness, but a theater of horror where popes lived in fear not just of their rivals, but of their own legacies rising from the grave. The curse of the Cadaver Synod would echo through history, a grotesque reminder that when men play God, even the dead will not rest.